Hi everyone, Lisa Gifford here, and welcome to our tutorial that we're going to be doing today on one of Martelli's newest projects. And this one is so much fun, and you're going to love making this one. This is the Peekaboo Color Pop Shoulder Bag, and it's 2 templates. You got your full written instructions in here with the packaging, and of course the video that you're watching today. And this one was just so much fun. I've got some inspiration from some other ones that I saw online. I thought, wow, we need to make that one, and I changed it up a little bit and made it ours. I think you're going to absolutely love it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out so that you can see the templates. And I'm going to talk to you about some prep work that you need for the templates that makes it a little bit better, but I'm going to get everything out. And here is our instructions, front and back. Nice color photo for you so that you can see an idea of what it's going to look like when it's all done. And at the very end, I have a couple of samples I'm going to show you where I did a couple of different things with the straps so that you can design it to how you want it to be. But let me show you a couple of the bags that we already made. Of course, in the photo, here's the one that's in the photo, and it is just absolutely so cute. Again, it's called Peekaboo Color Pop. So it kind of peekaboos out the color popping, and it's just a great little shoulder bag. You can make the straps longer, you can make them adjustable if you want them to be, but this is just a great size little bag. Fun little color. You can do it into your favorite colors, just summertime, fall. This is one that you can make a Christmas one, but this one just looks like summer right here, isn't it? And it's just the fun little color pop. It's got this nice little area under here where it sits down. So just know that whatever you choose for your pop is going to be pretty much the bottom of the bag, and just nice, comfortable against your shoulder. Then when you open it up on the inside, you're learning this nice zipper technique that we're going to learn about having with the tabs. And I got some cute little hints for those. And then inside, I got some stuffing in here, so let me take some stuffing out. I've got 4 pockets, two on each side, 2 nice size pockets that you'd be able to stick your phone in there, and then your big roomy bag on the inside, very big roomy bag on the inside. And it's just so cute and nice little zipper. And another little feature that we've added to this is you've got these little tabs here on this side, and there's one on this side. So they're designed on here, so like with this one, I've got these skinny little hooks with like a little D-ring on here where you can snap on maybe your keys or maybe some cute little dangles that you might want to find, or you can put just a D-ring on here. You could do whatever size that you want to add these little tabs. It just adds another little feature to it. And then to add the handles here, they're just put right here on the side, so they're not tucked into the seam, so it's not really, really thick fabric, so that I always call it needle breakers when you make it too thick for you to be able to have them hidden into the seam and then your top stitching. So it's really easy on how we do the handles here. So this one here is the first one that's showing you. This is the one that we have on the photo. And then I want to show you with another colorway. How cute is this with the pop of gold on here? And then with that, adding gold hardware. And if you look here with the straps on here, they're sewn on, but I wanted to add a little bit of touch of something else, so I added some rivets on here. So these are riveted with some gold hardware for that. Add a little dangle to my key, to my zipper. But just another fun feature on doing the bags. And then you've got all this cool color popping, and it's nice on the bottom. And then here's another one. We're just playing with some fun, bright, if you know me, I love my bright, colorful fabrics. And again, here's showing where I added some really fun rivets on here. And it's just super easy, and it just adds another stability to you. And then we're going to talk about this new way of doing these handles or the straps, where you're using the webbing and you're hiding everything. It was super easy, and I loved how they look and how they feel. So we're going to learn how to make these fun straps. We're going to learn how to make these fun tabs on top that are not crowded, or they look really good on here. And then we're going to learn how to make these fun little D-ring tabs, like these are little hooks, just to add a little touch of something to your bag so you can hang on to them, personalize them, do whatever you want with them. And then at the very end, I'm going to show you some different strap variations that I had done so that you'll see how that's all done. All right, so let's take a moment, and I'm going to set these aside, and I'm going to go over You got your instructions right here, but in the instructions, I'm going to talk about some of the things that you're going to need to be able to make this bag, and of course, the materials that you're going to need. And it's pretty simple. Right here is I've got it all laid out in front of me, pretty much everything that you're going to need to be able to make this bag. So you're going to need 3/4 yard of a main fabric, and that's this one right here. So I'm using this one as my main fabric. And then you're going to need 3/4 yards, and I'm calling it an accent fabric. But this is the one that's going to be doing a lot of the pop-in. So this is your accent fabric, and it's also going to be seen more on the bottom. So you got these two fabrics, 3/4 yard, 3/4 yard of these two fabrics. And then you're going to need, I'm using, this is a woven interfacing, a fusible woven interfacing. You're going to need 1.5 yards of the woven interfacing. And there's a reason why you need a interfacing on this, because with the pleats, if I tried making one without having interfacing, and you didn't have as much structure to the pleats. So it's good to have at least some interfacing. This one's just woven. I'm sure you could probably do a non-woven, but I'd probably get more of not a lightweight or featherweight. I'd probably go more with a medium. That way you get this nice structure on the pleats. And I did try making one without using it, and it just didn't, it's just a little bit more floppy. I mean, it still does the popping, but it's still just a little bit more floppy, and you want a little bit more structure on that. All right, then you're also going to need, so besides the 3/4 yards of 2 different fabrics, your main and your accent, and 1.5 yards of fusible interfacing, and this is a 20-inch width is what I'm using here. And then you're going to need 1 2/3 yards of 1-inch poly webbing. If you want to use poly webbing, you could use cotton, or you could just make your own straps. They don't necessarily have to be the webbing, but the technique I'm going to show you is using it with the webbing. You're going to need a number 5 zipper tape and a zipper slider. And this one's a 13-inch piece. You're going to cut it down to 12.5 inches. So you're just at 12.5 inches, but you could also use a pre-made zipper for this also. But here, as I'm showing you with zipper tape and with a number 5 slider. You're going to need 2 D-rings, and they could be whatever size that you have. So right here, I've got these little 3/4 inch D-rings. Here is showing the lobster claw clasp D-rings. I think they're also 3/4 inch. But whatever size you choose, you're going to have to adjust the size for making your D-ring tabs to whatever size that is. And I think with the 3/4 inch, I think you use 3 inches. I think you triple it. We'll look at that in a minute, but you're going to need 2 D-rings if you're going to add the D-rings to the sides to it. And I believe that's all of the main things that you need. Now let's talk about some of the things that's going to help make your project go a little bit easier. And this is some of the optional stuff, and you'll see me using it because I found a really great use for it. So let me set these aside, and let's pull up this right here. You're going to need clips. You're going to need lots of clips, particularly when we go to doing our folding for our pleats. I found that a heavier duty clip, a larger clip, works really well for this, but you can use the smaller clips. So you're going to need some clips for this, or pins if you want to pin it. You're going to need a marking tool, maybe some scissors. If you have some 1/4 inch double-sided tape, this is a life changer right here using this. I use it for my zippers, I use it for my straps. There are several different uses for it in this project. So the 1/4 inch tape, if you have it, is great. You don't have to have it. You can get away without using it, but I loved using this. It made things go easier. I grabbed this little tool because you've got some really big seams that you're sewing, that you're flattening out. And so I have a seam roller. If you have a seam roller, great to have it. If you have the zipper, the zipper slider attachment tool, Martelli has one. This is a great tool. Use this. Of course, your rotary cutter. So these are the main things that you're going to find yourself using a lot of. All right, so I'm going to set these aside, and we're going to take a look at our templates. So here is our templates. You've got your large one. This one's called B. And then you've got A. You'll be using A first, and then you'll be using B a little bit later. But all of them have our amazing brown on the back side of all of them, and grips and holds for us. And this one here, we actually have it as 3.5 by 10.5 inches, and I'm going to go over why we need that. And then this one here is our shoulder bag, our main piece. Has it written on the side where it says fold. You got your cutout lines so that you'll be able to box your corners, and there's just a little line here. It's 2.5 inches down from the top. That's your pocket placement guide if you want to use that. But these are all the things that you're going to need to get started. Now, one of the things that I needed to talk to you about in getting your templates prepped, let me grab these because this one might be not done. This one here. All right, all of your templates have the brown on here. And sometimes when you're looking down on it, you're going to see a little bit of that brown. They might not have shaved it all the way off. So I always recommend, before you get started, to take your rotor cutter and at a slight angle, run it along the edge and get some of that excess brown off that you might see on here. It's going to make it a little bit easier, and you'll have a little bit more accurate cut by just taking off that extra brown, just having it at a slight angle so that when you go to do your cutting and you have your blade right up against it, it's not going to be rubbing against any of that brown, but it'll be nice and straight. And I do that for all of my templates when I get started to get off some of that excess brown from all the way around, and just kind of have a slight angle in and just kind of shaving off the excess. And then here's where we're going to be cutting in to our part here. So I'm going to just come up, get a little bit of brown off of this one. This is our cut guide for our boxing our corners. And just getting all of this excess all the way off. Now you won't be doing this one so much on the side because this is placed on the fold, but you'll be cutting all the way around the perimeter. Now I do this to all of my templates just to get them all prepped and ready for when we go start using them. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is you're going to get all of your fabrics out, and we'll start where the talking about what we have here. So you got your main fabric, and you got your accent fabric, and you got your fusible. And so this is all the cutting that you're going to do. You're going to get your main fabric out, this one right here, and you got, again, you have 3/4 of a yard, so about 27 inches is what you should have. And you're going to go ahead and get all of your cutting first. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to get everything nice and pressed, nice and flat. And then once you have everything all pressed, then you're going to go ahead and do all of your cutting. So here is my fabric, and of course I don't have it fully pressed right here, but the cuttings on this one is not the same for both. So on this one is mainly used for the main fabric. You're going to be using it for the exterior, and you're going to be using it for the piece that goes on top. You're going to be using it for your interior pockets and for your straps. So there's a lot that is cut from this one. So you're going to first cut a 10.5 inch width of fabric. Now here's another thing to remember. If you're using a fabric that has that's directional, just pay attention to that directional, because you want to be able to have everything not upside down. It works well with directional or non-directional. Of course, non-directional, you can lay it any way. But if you're working with a fabric that's directional, so you want to be sure to cut everything in that so that it's not upside down on you. But this one works really well because you're going to cut your 10.5 inches by width of fabric. Then you're going to cut a 3.5 inch width of fabric. You're also going to cut a 7.5 inches by width of fabric, and then you're going to cut two 2-inch strips. So that's what you're going to be doing for the main fabric. You're also going to, then once you have the main fabric all cut, then you're going to cut your accent fabric, and that would be this one right here. So you're going to cut this one into a 10.5 inch piece by width of fabric and a 13.5 inch piece by width of fabric. So even though you've got 27 inches, you're only needing about 24. You could have got away with just 24, 2/3 of a yard. But you're going to cut this into those pieces. And then if you look at the, going back to the main fabric, there are some subcut, and I forgot to go over that. So the first 10.5 inch piece you cut off, that is for your main body exterior. And so that would be this one right here. So this would have been, this is my 10.5 inch piece by width of fabric. So you have this one cut, then you're setting those aside. Then you have your 3.5 inch by width of fabric. Those are subcut into these pieces right here. So you're going to cut two pieces, 3.5 by 14.5 right here. You cut two of them. These are going to be for the main top, body, exterior top. Then you cut those and set them aside. Then you're going to cut 4 pieces, 2.5 by 3 inches. And those are going to be used for, let's see, the zipper tabs and D-rings. So you're going to cut that from that same 3.5 inch strip. So from this one, you're cutting this, but you're also cutting your zipper tabs and you're cutting your D-rings from the 3.5 inch strip. And then you're going to go to the 7.5 inch strip and you're going to subcut those. And that would be this piece right here. So here's your 7.5 inch strip. So we'll go ahead and subcut this one. This one's your interior pockets and it's still folded. So you subcut this one into 2 pieces that are 7.5 by 21. So we'll go ahead and cut this one down into our 21. And these are for the interior pockets. So it goes all, using pretty much the whole thing for this. So I'm just going to trim this off just a little bit. So you're using that whole strip to create the 2 pieces for your pockets. Once those are done, just set those aside. I'm going to keep these labeled as we get to that point of where we can start constructing. And then you're going to, from your 2 inch widths of fabric, the long ones, and that's these right here. You cut these into 2 inches by width of fabric, and you have 2 strips. So these get subcut into 2 by 34 inches. So I'm going to open them up and go into the 34. Or you can keep them folded and cut it at the 17. Let's do that. I'm going to keep them folded. Place the fold this way. And I'm going to cut this at the 17. 17 and 17 is 34 inches. And you're going to do that to both of your strap pieces. Let's cut this one. Now if I was to cut this one on the 34, you'll have a longer piece left over instead of 2 shorter ones. So let's stretch this one out. And we'll cut this to the 34. So here's a longer piece versus 2 shorter pieces. So I love saving my little scraps for other things that I can do with them. But here's your 2 pieces that you're going to have for your straps. So once you have these cut, we're going to go ahead and set these aside. So when we get started all of our prep work, then we'll have these ready to go. All right, so that's cutting all of the main. Now the accent fabric is cut. You have a 10.5 by width of fabric, and that would have been this piece right here. So here's my 10.5 by width of fabric, this big piece right here. And then once you have that one, go ahead and set it aside. And then you have the 13.5 by width of fabric. And that's this one right here, 13.5 by width of fabric. So you got your 2 pieces that you cut from the accent fabric. And then it tells us right here, lining, keep folded and set aside for later instructions. So we're just going to keep these folded as they are and set them aside. So this one's for the body, this one's for the lining. So we'll set these back over here. Now we're going to go to our fusible. So your fusible gets all cut up too. So you're going to take the fusible interfacing and you're going to cut 4 pieces that are 10.5 inches. So I found it was easier to just take my big piece and keep it folded. Line up my edges. And we're going to cut 2 strips that are 10.5 inches, and it's already 20 inches. So you need 4 of them. So we're going to cut 2 of them at the 10.5, and that will give me the 4 because the fabric's folded. One, and then 10.5, and 10.5 is 21. So I'm going to my 21. So here are your 4 pieces that are 10.5 by 20. So you have those, and then with this remaining piece, you're going to cut 2 pieces that are 3.5 by width of fabric. So you should have enough on here to do that. So right here. So you're going to cut 2 pieces that are 3.5 by 20. So it's still folded, so I just have to go 1, 2, 3.5. And here are your 2 pieces that are 3.5 by 20. So you need 4 of the 10 by 20, 10.5 by 20, and 2. And then the smaller ones, the 3.5 by 20, you're going to subcut those into 3.5 by 14. So we're going to go ahead and lay this back down. And we're going to get this one subcut into 3.5 by 14.5. I'm going to knock off this little bit on the edge and then go to 14.5. And then you're going to have that set aside. So then these are the other pieces. So here's your extra, here's your 4 big pieces here, and then here's these right here. All right, so that's all of the fabric cutting that you're going to be doing. Now let's start with the fusible. So now we got to get everything all fused on. We're going to go to the ironing station. I'm going to show you what you're going to be doing. So you're going to take your accent, which is the 10.5 by width of fabric, and your main fabric, 10.5 by width of fabric, and your 2 pieces that you subcut that are 3.5 by 14. All of these pieces are going to be going onto these fabrics. So I'm going to show you at the ironing station. So let's head on over there. Now I've already got these all ironed on here, but I wanted to show you what you're needing to do, particularly on the larger pieces. So I'm going to show you on this one. So here is my large accent piece. Again, this is the 10.5 by width of fabric here. So you've got to take 2 of these pieces, the 10.5 by width of fabric, the 2 of them, and you're going to fuse them onto the wrong side of your accent and to the wrong side of your main fabric. So what you're going to do is you're going to flip this over, and if you can see, I already have this fused on here. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take one of the pieces and you're going to put them on opposite ends. So you're going to have a little bit of a gap here in the middle. So you're going to fuse this one on one end by the selvage, and then you're going to fuse the other side, the other one, onto the other end. So you will have this little strip here in the middle that won't have any fusible on it, but you're not going to need that right here when we do all of our cutting. So you're going to do this one to your accent fabric, and then you're also going to repeat it for your main fabric. And this one I've already got partially cut, but you can see where I had cut this section off, and I will be cutting the rest over here on this side. But the same thing on both the pieces. On the wrong side, you're going to fuse the interfacing onto that one. So that's how I wanted you to see that, because you don't butt them up here. You're going to have them on opposite ends. Then we're going to be doing all of our cutting. So let me get these set aside. And then you're taking your 3.5 inch pieces by 14.5, and you're just going to fuse those same size pieces onto the back side of your main fabric for the box, for the bag top. So you're going to do that for both of these pieces. And so once you have those done, now we get ready to do some more sub cutting. So let's go back to the cutting station, and I'm going to show you how we do all of that. Because there's a little bit of a trick, and we're going to go over that. One of the main things that makes this bag so unique is that you're keeping everything into the same orientation. So if you have a fabric like a big bold print and you want it to kind of follow along, sort of like what I have on this one. So if you see, you got your big print, so you got your bird of paradise flower here, but then it's flowing from here, then these yellows are flowing to here, and these little leaves are coming to here. So you want to keep it in the orientation when you cut it. So that's why you have it set on the opposite ends, and I'll show you all that. Here's another one showing how the orientation goes with the flowers going across, the blues, the purples, you know, these kind of flowers kind of bud up. Even though there's a big seam in there, it still worked with the larger prints. On this one here, with the rainbow print, you can see how you've got the purples to the reds, to the yellows, to the green. It's just flowing all the way across, pinks, purple, blues, greens, just going across by keeping your fabrics lined up. So we're going to talk about that part right here. All right, so got all of these ready to go. I'm going to set these aside because once you have your fusible onto your 2 box tops, you're just going to take those and just set those aside. Then you're going to get your big pieces, and we're going to start doing our cutting on these. So now we're on the back page of our instructions. So I'm going to show you first with the body piece. Now I would have normally had this folded, you know, selvage to selvage, and then I would have cut all of my pieces. But I wanted to show you the orientation on how that works. So we're going to lay this out here, and I've already cut my first grouping off. So this is where you're going to grab the template that says A, and it's the 3.5 by 10.5, and it says PCPSB, which is Peekaboo Pop Shoulder Bag, I think. I think that's what it is. Peekaboo Color Pop Shoulder Bag. Okay, so this should already have its width on here. But now you're going to cut the rest of it going across. So I am going to start right here. So I'm going to go past the gap because this is the colorway that I want it to lay out. So you're going to cut 5 of these going across. So there you need a total of 10 of these cut, but you don't want to lose the orientation. So I'm going to fold this back so I can set it back on a line where I can start. So I'm going to have it start here. So I'm going to start at the 5. I want to make sure I'm catching everything on here. And you're just going to keep it in the same orientation. So I'm just lining this up nice and straight. Cut this first one off. I'm going to flip it around so I can get the other side. So there's 1. And if you would have had your folded fabric, you would have cut 5 of them, and it would have been your 10. So keeping everything in the orientation. There's 3. 4, and then our last one, 5. All right, so here's our 5. I'll keep them in order and set those aside. So here is our blue, our accent. I'm going to have this one folded. Now it doesn't really matter as much with this one because it's got this all over water print. But if you're working with a fabric that actually has a print that you want to keep it, you know, with it, that flows across, then you want to do the same thing. You want to keep it in orientation. So I've got my fabric here, and you only have to cut with it folded 4 of them, so you'll have 8. You need 8 of these. So I'm going to get my first one cut here. Let me just go ahead and cut off the selvage on one edge. Cut those off, and then let's go ahead and get our cuts going across. There's 1, 2. And last one here. And this is your extra. So let's set that aside. So here are all of our pieces. So I'm going to show you, if you were having them done where you were cutting top to bottom, you're going to separate the top like this. if I wanted to keep them in orientation. You're going to do this if you're doing with the main fabric too. Then you're just going to flip these over like this. And there's your orientation for both pieces. All right, so I'm going to grab these 4 and then these 4. All right, so you got all your fabrics. You would have had 10 of these and 8 of those. So once you have those all cut, now we're going to start sewing them into strip sets. You're going to make 2 strip sets of 9. So this is where you want to keep everything in orientation. So I'm going to show you how it's going to look. So you're going to have this one here, and then you'll have this one sewing here. And you're just going to keep it all in that order. So I sew them in groups of 2, and then I put the 2 together. But you could do them all one at a, single one at a time. But this is a good one to easily do a strip, to do some chain piecing on doing this. See how the flow is just going all the way across. So you have your 4 in the middle, and then you have your 5. So this is the look that we're going to have right here. Now I need to mention this right off the rip. The seam allowance for pretty much all the sewing is 3/8 of an inch, not 1/4 inch. So be sure to set your machine up for 3/8 of an inch. If you accidentally do 1/4 of an inch, which I did once, it's going to change the size of your top piece. I think instead of it being 3.5 by 14.5, it's going to 3.5 by 15.5. But then it's also going to change the size of your lining too. So try to remember it's 3/8 of an inch when you're sewing all of these pieces together. What that larger seam allowance is doing is giving it a little bit more structure on all of the pleats that we're going to be making, because we press the seams open, then we press them to the side. I'm going to show you that in a minute. So here's what you do. You got all of your pieces. Now I'm going to go ahead and just put them, stack them up. And we're going to go ahead and get all of these sewed up. Well, I actually have one already sewed up for you, but I'm going to show you how easy it is. Now, I'm on the M7, and I'm using the HP foot on this one. Now, by using the HP foot, it is 1/4 inch, or actually almost like a scant quarter. So I had to be sure to get my little ruler out, and because I am looking for 3/8 of an inch. So on my machine, I set my ruler up here, or tape measure, and I'm looking for that 3/8 of an inch, and I see it right here. So I took a little pencil and I kind of marked it on the machine right here, so I knew where is 3/8 from the edge of my needle, so that I can sew all of these up at that 3/8 of an inch. So to sew them, I'm just taking my first one, grabbing the second one, and I like sewing them in pairs. So I'm lining up my tops, and then I'm placing it where I'm right there. And I have my machine where my foot will come up, and I'm at my 3/8 of an inch, and we're just going to stitch them right side together all the way down, keeping everything all lined up. So I like chain piecing, so I grab the next 2, and you just stitch them, get my foot to come up at your 3/8 of an inch. That little bit extra 1/8 of an inch actually gives it just a little bit more body. You will get 4 sets and an extra one, and I'll show you that. There's my extra one on the end, because we're sewing 9, not 8. So I usually just take my last set that I just sewed, open it up, and then I go ahead and take the last one and attach it here. Okay, so we got to keep everything in order. So this was the first one. So I'm grabbing the second one, or the third one. 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so now we're going to keep them in order. And check every time, making sure, does this one go there? Yes, you'll see how it all flows together. So I always like to do that little double check to make sure I didn't get anything out of order. Grabbing this one, double check, seeing how these all match up. And get this one sewed. And then sewing the two sets together. All right, so you're going to do that for, you're going to make 2 strip sets. So this is strip set number 1, and then you're going to repeat that for the other strip set. Now's the fun part of getting all these ironed nice and flat. So this is where, using a tool like this, or whatever you might have to help pop open these seams, but you're going to iron all of these nice and flat. And I found by taking this little step of prep work, it made it a little bit easier, because your iron is going to want to kind of, as you're pressing one flat, then the other one kind of gets lifted up a little bit. But by going ahead and getting a start on getting these seams, which are heavier duty, all pressed open, it's going to help when you go to get everything all pressed nice and flat, because there's 2 steps to this pressing. You're going to press them flat first, then you're going to fold them again, and you're going to press again, and that's going to help with the better look overall for all of your pleats. So I'm just getting the final one pressed open right here. One more. You're going to do this to both sets. So let's go to the iron, and I'm going to show you the step process for pressing. And this is where it's good to have the block press. If you don't have the Martelli block press, it's going to really help make everything nice and flat. But then you do something else to change that up. All right, so once you have it, I got it kind of prepared to start, you're just going to press these, and you're going to see as you go to press the next one, your iron might have a tendency to lift up the next one. So you're just going to flatten these all out as much as you can. Having that little bit of a roller thing kind of helped start it for you when you're getting all these pressed out. And these being open, these being pressed is important. It will help with the color popping. You can see how it lifts up. The iron will lift up a little bit on the other ones. So you kind of lift it as you go. And this project goes together quick. You've just got this little bit of prep work that just takes some time. And once I get it as flat as I can on one side, then I'm going to flip it over, smooth it out. And this is why I like using the block press here and having some steam. And I've never been a big fan of having steam in my iron, but I've been using it lately. I'll get half of it iron, or if you have to have 2 of the block presses, that would be great to have. So I get one side nice and iron flat, and then I'm going to lay this down. And now I'm going to get the other 3 done. Other 3 big seams. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, I guess, 5 here. Flatten them out, get some heat on here, and then pop the block press on the other side. And if you can see, look at how flat it really works to make it flat. But we're getting ready to change that up. So this is something that I just kind of learned, makes it a little bit better. So now you're going to do another press. And so I flip it over back, and then I'm going to fold it at that crease, and I'm going to do a quick press at each one of those creases. So I'm going to fold it back again, give it a little bit of a finger press, and then hit it with the iron. So you're doing this extra step, and it's going to help when you are getting the shape for the for all the pleats that we're going to be making next. Pressing again. So the first press kind of gets it to flatten it out, and then you're creating this other little at the seam because you need that little bit right there. Just keep rolling it back, hitting it again. Two more to go. Right there at the seam, and then the last one, rolling it back. I just kind of flipped it over, keeping it nice and straight, and hitting that again. So it flattened it, but then it curved it back in. But it's going to help for the next step. And you're going to do that to both of these pieces. Now we're going to start creating the pleats. So let's go back to the cutting station. All right, so now you're going to first start having it in the right orientation, like this. Now you've got to find the centers of the blues in this one here. So having it where it's in the right orientation, you're going to fold them, matching up the seams for the accents. You've got to find the centers for all of your accent pieces. So with your little scissors or snips, I'm matching up my seams, finding my little center right here, and I'm going to just put a little nip in it. This is just going to find my centers on all of my accent pieces. So folding it, matching up the seam here at the top, finding my centers. I'm going to do that to all the pieces, to all the accents. Not all of them, just the accents. And this is at the top, so follow the orientation. At this one, and then the last one here. Matching up my seam, finding my center. You can finger press it. I like to put a little clip in it. And then while you're still working on the top, go ahead and fold that center one right here, the center of the main. Find the center on this one. You're going to need that one for when we go for our placement of the top piece that we're going to be making. So now you have all 4 of these done, and then this one in the center. Now we're going to find the centers of the 3 middle main pieces, not the outside ones, these 3 in the middle. So just like we did for the accent, we're going to fold it in half, matching up the seam, find our center, and mark it. Give it a finger press, or I like to do a little tiny snip for my 3 center main pieces. You're going to do this to both of your strip sets. There's that one, and last snip there. All right, so now all of our pieces our trim. Now we're going to start doing all of our folding. I actually have one done, so I'm going to show you how easy it is. I'm going to kind of separate these out so you can see it. So here's all my pieces. We've got my center one, I got all these. So you're just going to take it and you're going to, remember we had pre-folded it or folded it there? You're going to fold these into the center. Grabbing it and just folding it into the center and making sure it stays nice and straight all the way across. So you're going to line it up. And once you have all of these edges all lined up nice and straight, you're going to put a clip there. And this is where using the heavy duty clips for that. You're going to go all the way across, bringing the main and covering up the accent. Main edges, you got your two mains, and you're bringing those folds into the center, lining it straight. So you're going to kind of turn it a little bit, line it up straight. Once you have it there, get your heavy clip and clip it. And same here, last one, heavy clip and clip it. You're going to repeat that for these right here, and then you're going to flip it over, and on the bottom, you're going to be bringing the accent into that center clip, that center of the main fabric, and you're going to be looking for that place that you had marked your center, and you're going to clip those, and you're going to do all those three in the middle. So once you get it all folded, it's going to look like this. You're going to have this look right here. So here's the orientation. Just so that you know, measuring, because your box pieces were cut at 3.5 by 14.5 inches, now's a good time to do a quick little test to see if you're 14.5 inches. If you would have sewn at 1/4 inch, it's going to be an inch bigger. And I'm going all the way across, and I am right at 14.5 inches, right where we need it to be. All right, so you're going to repeat that for both of the pieces. Now, again, we're on the back page. So this is creating the pleats. And then what I recommend that you do, once all the pleats are done, you need to go ahead and do a based stitch, 1/4 inch, not 3/8, 1/4 inch base stitch to secure these pleats. So let's go ahead and take this to the sewing station, and we're going to do our based stitch across these and across these here to secure them, and we can take our clips out. So I'm just raising my stitch length up to full basting. I got it at 5, and we're just going to stitch all the way across at 1/4 inch, because when we go to sew our box top on, we're going to sew it at the 3/8. So it's going to cover up the base stitching. So you're going to just catch it all the way around, and when I'm doing this part, I'm kind of pushing those two pleats together, making sure they stay together, and I go ahead and have my foot set so it doesn't come up, it stays down. So I just set that, and I'm just pushing those two pleats together and stitching all the way across. And being careful, because sometimes it hangs up at your machine and it'll undo your clip. So I just had one do that here, right here. So we're just going to kind of hold it and stitch all the way across, catching those at 1/4 inch, releasing the clip, pushing those folds together, and stitching across. Coming across the center. Pushing them together. And then the last one, take your clip out and just stitch across. And stitch off. All right, and then you're going to do that to the bottom also. So flipping it around. And stitching across, pushing those pleats together. And stitching across. And last one. And then just going ahead and sewing all the way across. All right, so you'll repeat that for both of the strip sets. When you get done, you should have something now that looks something like this. And you can kind of see, all right, now we're getting there. We're creating the exterior body part. So you'll have both of them done. Now let's go to, now we got some prep work. So once you have these done, you're going to set these aside for later assembly. So once you have them done, now we got to get our D-ring tabs done and attached and ready to go for, we're going to put those on, and then we're going to get our box top done. So you already have your box pieces right here. So the next step, this is our box tops. So now we're going to be creating our D-rings. So whatever that you're going to be using for your D-rings. So I have the, I'm using these ones that are the larger, the ones that's the lobster claw. So it can be whatever size that you want. I think I actually have some different variations here so that you could see different ones. The ones that I'm using here are, trying to see my fabric here, if you want to make them skinnier, if you're working with like a skinnier D-ring here or a wider D-ring, but you're going to be doing it where you're going to be folded in half. And then you're going to be folding these in and folding these in so that when it's done, it's the proper size for what size D-ring that you are using. This one here, these are a little bit wider, so I'm trying to say these were 4 inches, I think. No, 1, 2, 3. I think these were like 3-inch wide pieces. And so you just, once you get your folded pieces, they're 3.5. I believe these were 3 by 2.5, and then you fold them and you do your top stitching on both sides, and then you just loop your D-rings, and in my case I'm using the lobster claw D-ring. So you're going to have both of those done. Here's one where I just have a regular, where it's a slightly smaller D-ring. I just wanted to show you some different examples of making the tabs for your D-rings, and they're just literally just sewing your strip of fabric, folding the 2 edges to the center, and then folding it in over itself, and then you're just going to do a top stitch on both sides and then clip them to size to make your D-rings. And so I have these right here ready to go to be added to my project. So once you have your D-rings done, so you're going to sew the main body exterior top to the pleated set. So to add the D-rings though, we're going to base these into place. So grabbing our piece that we have just done, where to place these is going to be, and I've got one where I actually got the box top done, but I'm going to show you here. So on your strip set that you've got your pleats in, you're going to place this, see where you're going to feel where the fold is right here underneath. I set this right here beside that fold. So if I'm looking at the edge on this one here, I'm about 1 inch over from the outer edge. Remember, you're going to have a 3/8 of an inch sewn here, so you're about 1 inch, 1.5 inches over from the outer edge is where you're going to place your D-ring. So you're going to place it the same on both sides. So on one of your strip set, I'm going to have it as I'm looking at it, it's going to be on my left. Or if you want, or unless you want it to be on your right, you can have it, but whichever side you choose, whichever one, you're going to have it on the exact same side. Because looking at the bag, I wanted you to see where the D-rings are. Here is the bag right here. Here is one D-ring here, but the opposite one is on the opposite side here. So they're not on the same edge. So if you was to have one here and then have one here, it'd be opposite. They would be both, when they're sewed together, they'd be both on the one end. It's however you want your placement to be. I kind of wanted mine to be opposite, so I'm placing them on the same placement on the strip set as if as I'm looking at it. So I like to clip it on, and then I just go to the back to the sewing station, and I like to just do the same thing, just kind of baste it into place at the 1/4 inch. So I'm going to 1/4 inch, and I'm just going to baste it in. It's just going to hold it. It's just one less clip that I have to have right here. All right, so you're going to get that done on both of your strip sets. Now you're going to take your top And this is where you're going to add the top piece, the box top piece, to now this piece right here. So you get the strip set on, ready to go. You've already basted your D-ring on here. So looking at the top, you don't want to have it upside down. You want to have it like this. So you're going to take this piece, take your piece, fold it in half, and go ahead and mark your centers, top and bottom. The bottom is going to be the placement for attaching it to the strip set. The top is going to help you when you go to do your zipper. So fold it in half, mark your centers. You can mark with marking tool. I like to do my little darts, so I just kind of fold it and put my clips in it. And I want it to be going in the right orientation, so I'm going to put it right sides together, match up my centers, and then just grab some clips and just start clipping it to hold it in place. So I go all the way to the end, match up my end, match up my end, put some more clips in it just to hold it. By taking that, doing that basting stitch, it's going to hold everything in place for you to stitch all the way across. So now you're going to stitch 3/8 of an inch all the way across your, all the way across, right? So this one I've got it done. So it's all the way stitched all the way across. You can see it right here. Then you're going to open it up and press it away. So let's do this one here. I'm going to show you how easy it is, because then you're going to do a top stitch and it's super, super easy. So you're literally going back, I'm sewing this at the 3/8 of an inch. That way it's covering up the basting stitch that we did at 1/4. So we're just going to stitch this all the way across at the 3/8. And I'm going to do a back tack here. And it's going to go right smoothly over the tab. We're just lining everything up and stitching across. There's my center. Stitching across. And then coming up to the other side. And back tack at the end. All right, so once you get this done, now you're going to just kind of press it, and it's going to just automatically go in the direction that you want it to press to. So you're just going to press this away like this. Just give it a press away. And you can see it just coming together and looking so very nice. So the seam is going up. If you can see here, the seam is going up. So get it nice and pressed, and then we're going to just do our top stitch all the way across. And that's where I've got this one already done. So you top stitch it right here. If you can look closely, here's my top stitch all the way down, and what it's doing, it's catching that seam that we had just made all the way across. So now you've got your tabs on here, and now you've got your top then you'll top stitch it, so both of your tabs are ready to go and on your pieces. So looking at the instructions, so you've got your D-ring on here, you repeat that for the other strap set. Let me see, and what do we do? Now we just set these pieces aside, because now we've got more prep work that we've got to do. We've got to get our zipper ready, and we got to get our straps ready. So let's set this aside. And the first thing we're going to work on is making the straps. And I really love the technique that we have here on doing our straps. So let me grab these right here. The strap that we are making is this right here. This one's already done. So you got your pretty fabric on the front, you got your top stitching right here, and then you've got your webbing underneath, and then it kind of tucks in, it overlaps it a little bit. But this edge is never seen. This is what's stitched on to the bag right here and here. So you won't even see these. And I love doing this technique for the strap because it's not in the seam. Ones that I had seen where they actually had it sewed into the seam of but when you're sewing the top on, and then when you folded it back up, you had so many layers. I call it needle breakers at that point. So I decided to do it this way. But I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of other options while we're at that point of straps. Because these other bags that I had done, I showed some different techniques on doing straps. And it's, you know, it's up to your preference and how you want your straps to be. I was trying to figure out a way so it wasn't so much thickness that you're working with. So the first one that I had done, I believe it was this one. This one here is where I had done the straps. And I had taken the straps and I had attached them to some lobster claw clasps that had, you know, the ring in here. So I attached these two straps to this because what I had done was I added double D-rings right there at the same point that you are putting the single D-ring. So that's where the idea of adding the little D-rings to hang your little hookies on was. I first decided to do the D-rings on each side so that I could have the straps connect to these. Again, we're not having so much thickness on there, and you're creating the two straps with the extra hardware. So you got this strap with two of the lobster claw clasps and this one. So you got to have double D-rings and 4 lobster claw clasps to be able to make this one. So when I made this, I mean, it's up to you on how you want it to be. And these are the swivels, so they can turn in any direction. When I made this one, I mean, it's cute. I really liked it, but I didn't like how it kind of folded in on itself by having that look. Of course, it wouldn't do that so much if you have it stuffed full of goodies, right? But that was a look that was one of the ones I had thought about doing, was exact same process, but adding double D-rings and having them placement at the place that we just talked about, and then creating your hooks or creating your straps with. And I have it completely enclosed in the webbing, completely enclosed in the fabric. So that was one look. Then this look right here was the very first one that I had done, where it was sewed into the box top. And there's the thickness right here. It's almost like a rock right here. And it really made it hard to stitch it, so much so that to do the box stitching so that it's not flopping down, I could not go all the way to the edge here where it's into the seam, because that I kept breaking. I broke a couple needles on that. So I brought it up, and you can see where my box stitching is right here, here and here. So it's in the seam, but I didn't like this look. I didn't like where it's down in here, and I couldn't do this securing stitch for it because it down all the way down, because it was it's so hard right here. And so you can do this one. You're just going to have to do the securing stitch here. Now here's where also I did the same strap with the webbing on the back that I'm ready to show you, and then I did this decorative serpentine stitch just to add a little touch to it. But that was this one. Again, I like how the look of the bag with the straps here. It doesn't fold in on itself like the one that has the D-rings on it. And so that brings me to this third one right here. I thought, well, how would it be if we was to put the D-rings on each end? So that's where this one came up. I don't have any D-rings here on the bottom pieces here on the top of the box top, but I slipped them in to the sides of the, when you go to sew the sides up, I put the D-rings and the tabs on each side. And then I made an adjustable, so we have a single strap instead of 2 straps. We have a single adjustable strap for this one. So nice look to the bag, but again, it bended in. I didn't kind of like how that looked, but again, this is your project. You can have it be whatever you want it to be. If you want to have a big adjustable strap, where it could be more like a crossbody, you can change it up to how you want it to be. But this is just one long strap, completely enclosed the webbing, and added the slider on here, and have the lobster claw swivel tabs or hooks on each side. But that's another look that you can do for what you're making. Again, if you're making these to sell at bazaars, you know, make several different styles and see how well they go. And that you might be surprised. There might be people who love this. Even when I did the ones with, like I showed you with this one, having the rivets, that just adds another look to it. So that's just talking a little bit about the straps. So let's get back to creating our straps for this project. All right. So this is where I will also pull out your, if you have the 1/4 inch double-sided tape, this is a great project for that one. All right, so you got your 2 pieces that you pre-cut. They're 2 inches by, I believe, 34, maybe 35, 32 inches by 34 inches on these. So you got to go ahead and start preparing to make the straps. So you're going to take the straps. Let me get my glasses on so I can see what we're talking about. You're going to take your straps and you're going to double fold a 1/2 inch and press. So I got one right here. You're not having to fold it in and fold it in and then fold it over. You're just folding the edges in a 1/2 inch or so all the way down on both sides, because when you go to lay your strapping down, those folded in pieces are going to be on the inside. You're not going to see them because they're going to be laying over top of that. So it's just going to get, you're going to have the webbing on the one side and you're going to have the pretty on the other side, as like what I have already for this one. So you're going to double fold. You're going to take your folded outside edges and you're just going to fold them in about a 1/2 inch on each side. So when they're folded in a 1/2 inch, it'll be about 1 inch wide. So do that to both of the pieces all the way down, like I have done for this one. So I'm going to pull this out. Already sewn all the way down. Not sewn, but pressed all the way down. And pressed all the way down. Now, if you'll notice on this one, when you get to the very end, here, I actually have you talking about when you're taking it, is that you're going to fold it on each end, double fold it a 1/2 inch and press to fold into the long centers. But what I found by doing that, and if you look closely, I've double folded, and then you're going to lay your centerpiece and then you're going to fold it over again. But by having that, I still saw these raw edges right here. Even though that's never going to be seen because it gets stitched down onto the bag like this, I was playing with the technique. So what I had done to create this area right here, this triangle look right here, was pretty simple. I had taken my fabric and I had folded, you know, I had it already folded and pressed a 1/2 inch all the way in. Then I opened it up and I folded it in half, right sides together. This is where kind of like that Dresden, you know, doing like a Dresden point. I folded it in half, right sides together, okay, and stitched it a 1/4 inch all the way across and trimmed it up just a little bit if you need to. So then when I flipped it out, it created like that Dresden point. So then when I pressed it down, now all of those seams, all of those raw edges are hidden right here. And I did that on this piece on both ends. So I opened, after I pressed my sides in, I didn't stitch nothing yet, pressed my sides in, then on each end, I opened it up, folded them right sides together, and stitched a 1/4 inch across. I'm going to trim it up just a little bit. And then when I open it back up, you're flipping that point out and it's pushing that point. Then you're going to do it like your dress and you're going to flatten it out. So now you got this point on the end, and all of those raw edges that I was seeing when I did the double fold, when I rolled it and rolled it, disappeared because now they're all tucked in right here on the ends. So I did that to both ends on this one. Now here's where the fun part of using the double-sided tape. I took my strapping, and you're going to go ahead and trim your strapping, your webbing, to 30-inch pieces. So I'm measuring all the way out, and these are 30 inches. So you've got your webbing cut to 30 inches. Once you have your webbing cut, if you want, you can take your little lighter and you kind of like burn the edges right here to keep it from fraying, but it's not going to be seen. It's all going to be tucked into the fabric. So web that in there so you can just get that any raw edges from unfraying. So this is where I took my double-sided tape and I ran a strip here and I ran a strip here. So I put 2 long strips onto my webbing. Now I already have my piece already folded in half, folded a 1/2 inch on each end and pressed. It's just pressed on, that's all it is. So then I take my strip and I go ahead and I'm taking off my double-sided tape. I'm just going ahead and peel this off. So now I got the tape on one side. Now we're going to just lay this onto our fabric here, and it's so easy. So I'm just going down about, well, I'm going to find my center. Let's find the center on this so we can get the centers lined up. So I'm going to just fold it in half. There's my center. So I know where the center is. I'm going to set that center right here on my 15. So there's my fold. I'm going to fold this one in half. So I know that's kind of where I want the centers to be pretty close. There's my 15 here. So I'm going to bump it up and I'm going to see how far down, because we're going to have the end pieces roll over. So I see it's about, on this one, it's about 1 inch down. So I'm going to start about 1 inch here and I'm just going to lay it on. And we're just kind of pressing it down. We're kind of centering it over the folded fabric that we had just done. And because the tape is so forgiving, you can actually reposition it. You can flip it around if you want to do it from the fabric on top. And you're just centering it on and pressing. I'm not doing any stretching or pulling. I'm just letting it lay on. So now I put the double-sided tape with the webbing underneath, and I'm just centering my piece, my fabric on, and it's forgiving. If I needed to readjust it, I can lift it and readjust it. And I'm just working all the way down, not giving any stretch or pull, just letting it lay till I come to the end, smoothing it out and flip it over. If I need to adjust right here, a little bit of adjustment, you should almost see just the slightest amount of the main fabric just kind of peeking out on each edge of the webbing. And then you're going to just fold this over, and if you want, you could grab another piece of your tape just to kind of secure it, but you're going to stitch this all down. And I'm going to just put this little piece right here, peel that off, and I'm going to just set it on here, and it's going to hold it in place. And now we're just going to stitch it all the way down on both sides. Let's put it right here. Get it on, score it, and lift it up. There we go. So when I fold this over, it's going to kind of hold it into place. And do the same thing on the other side. Hold it into place. So now once you have this all done, now you're just going to stitch all the way down like I've got right here. You're just going to stitch it all the way around like I have here. So it's going to hold it down. So this is where you can do fancy little stitching, match up your threads, so you have it stitched all the way down. Do that twice. You're going to do it for both of your straps. Once you have your straps done, you're going to set those aside because now we got to get to the zipper. All right, so straps are done, both straps. Now we're going to get to our zipper. Zipper is kind of unique. We got some fun things that we're going to be doing with this one because we're recreating the unique zipper tabs on each end. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to trim your zipper to, I'm going to follow along so you can see, you're going to trim the zipper tape to 12.5 inches. So if I flip this over, it is right at 12.5 inches. Then you're going to have your zipper tabs, your zipper fabrics that you're going to be putting on each end. They are measured at 2.5, I'm going to make sure 2.5 by 3 inches. So you've got these two pieces that are 2.5 by 3 inches. You'll have two of them. So we're going to attach them on each end of the zipper tape. We're going to do one side, put our zipper on, and then we'll do the other side. So to do this, You can go ahead and pre-fold this if you want. You know, give yourself a finger press at the halfway mark. But what you're going to do is you're going to stitch this zipper together on one end. You're going to fold it over. You're going to fold this over a 1/2 inch, and then you're going to match it up here. So this goes together really easy. So let's start like this. You're going to take your zipper, and you're going to take your tab. You're going to have your tab right side up, and it's going to be the narrow end, this end right here, not the long end, but the narrow end. And you're going to take your zipper, and you're going to place it right side down. Doesn't have to be, I like to center it. And you're going to stitch a 1/2 inch right here on this edge, as I have done right here. So I have it right side down, and I'm stitching 1/2 inch right here. Then you're going to flip it over, and you're going to press it, finger press it right here. Give it a finger press. Then the other end, I'll flip it back over. So you're going to take the other end, you're going to fold it over a 1/2 inch, press it, and then you're going to fold it again, and you're going to match up those, you're going to match up the edges right here and here. And then you're going to stitch across on one side. So we'll do that one first. So you folded it. I'm going to show you again. You can do the whole thing right here at your machine. So you're going to place your zipper tape right side down onto the short end of your tab. That's 2.5 by, so on the 2.5 inch side, 2.5 by 3, and you're going to sew 1/2 inch. So I have that 1/2 inch marking on here, and I'm stitching a 1/2 inch all the way across. So that would be done right here. So then you're going to pull it up, flip it over, finger press that. So then now your piece should look like this, like this. You're going to fold now the other end a 1/2 inch over, finger press that. Then you're going to fold it again and match up the two folds. I like to flip it over, and now I'm going to top stitch it across right there. That's the only stitching that we're going to be doing right here on this. So we're just going to top stitch it all the way across. So raise my stitch length up, and we're just top stitching across. Making sure both of the folds are met up, and we're stitching across the zipper. So it should look like this right now. So this is where we're getting to for here. Do that one side first, and you're going to feel that there's going to be the zipper ends here, but you still got a little bit more of a fabric right here. So we're almost like we're extending the zipper tape just a little bit, but it gives a better look overall when we have it into the bag. All right, so let's have that right here. Now we're not going to do the other side because now we got to get the zipper on to the zipper tape. So I've got my zipper slider installer, taking my zipper in here, putting it upside down. Now I'm going to open up my zipper tape just a little bit, flip it over, and now we're going to install our zipper. So this is, just stick it in, slide it down, and voila, your zipper is on there. Good to go. All right, so now we get to create the same thing. We get to repeat what we just did on this one side to the other side. So just like we did before, you're going to take your piece and you're going to line it up on the short end of your front. I'm going to grab this one that has the little turtle on it. And we're going to line it up just like we did on this end, but we're going to, that looks like it's too long. It's supposed to be 3 inches. There we go. Line it up, and we're going to do right sides together a 1/2 inch right here. This is after you have your zipper tape on. So let's go ahead and do that right here. 1/2 inch. So find your marker on your machine and just stitch it across a 1/2 inch. Okay, so then you're going to do just like what you did over here. You're going to push it, roll it back, finger press that right here, finger press it, fold it over, fold the other edge in 1/2 of an inch. I'm just kind of eyeballing that right there, about 1/2 of an inch. Let's see, how good am I on that? A little bit too wide. Fold it over 1/2 of an inch. I'm going to press that, and then I'm going to fold it again and match up the two folds. I'm going to flip it over, make sure everything's matching up and lining up. And I like to top stitch it now across what I had just done. So we're going to give it a top stitch all the way across. There we go. I'm going to give it a press just to sharpen this edge right here. It's going to be the same thing. You're going to have a little bit of extra fabric you're going to feel from the edge of the zipper. So I'm going to just press that down. Press this side, make it a little bit more sharp. Now you got your zipper done. Now we got to just trim it up, and now we're getting ready to start adding this to the bag, and this goes together pretty good. All right, so I like to just go ahead and trim off the excess on each side. Kind of flip it over, trim off the excess, because this is all going to be sewn in the seam. One, and do the other side. So here's what you should be looking at right here. Now what I didn't do is we forgot to find our centers of our zipper tape. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to fold it. Now we're going to mark our centers of the zipper tape. And I like doing it after I have the tabs on there so I can have the correct center, because you might have a little bit of variance. So now I'm just going to put my little nips in it just to find my centers of my zipper tape, just like so. There's my centers for my zipper tape, all ready to go. Okay, so once you have that done, now you should measure, if I'm not mistaken, at least 13.5 inches, and I'm just shy of 13.5 inches, but it's close to 13.5 inches. That's what you're wanting it to be. All right, so now we're going to, once we have the zipper tabs all done, you're going to set this aside again, because now we got to get our lining ready, because once we have all of our little components done and then you just put it all together, it goes together very fast. So zipper tape's done, straps are done. So let's go ahead and get our lining ready. Now we haven't even cut with our template A yet, so this is where we get to finally use template A. So you're going to grab your lining piece. That's this one right here. And I'm going to find my big template A right here. And we got to cut 2 of them. Now you cut this piece at 13, let's see, this was cut at 13.5 inches, I believe. Yes. And if you take a look at your template, it is 13.5 inches. So you're going to have your fabric laid out in front of you. You haven't done anything to it at all. So all you're going to do is you're going to fold it over. So you're going to just take that fold and bring it over to the selvages. And now you're going to have a double fold right here. You're going to take your template and you're going to just set it right there on that double fold. And it should all match up that you won't have to cut anything off the, of course, nothing on this fold here. You won't have to cut here. You won't have to cut here. You're just cutting here, and you're cutting out the cutout for the box bottom. So super, super easy by just having the fabric already pre-cut to the height that you need it to be. So now we're just going to go ahead and get our 2 linings cut out. And if you'll come here, you'll see there's a little angle right here. And then you're going to go ahead and cut out your box corners pieces right here. It should just come out. There might be a thread or 2. You might need to snip it. Got a couple threads right here, so we're just going to snip that out without pulling. We don't want to pull those threads because then you kind of get that, messes up the print a little bit. All right, so once you have that done, open it up. Well, hold on, keep it folded. Go ahead and mark your centers up here on the top. So I just like to put a little nip right here. You don't need to worry about it, I don't think, on the bottom, but you do need to have your centers marked on the top. Now you can go ahead and open it up. So now you got your 2 lining pieces ready to go. So now we got to put our pocket on here. So now you're going to grab your pocket piece. Now these are the ones that were cut 7.5 by 21. And you're going to take one of your pieces and you're going to turn it right sides together, just like this. And you're going to stitch all the way around and leaving an opening on one side. Just stitch the three sides. So I like to stitch across, leave my opening here, but you could leave it here on the bottom. But stitch all the way around, leaving a little bit of an opening. And I actually think I have one right here. So you stitch it all the way across, leaving an opening, flip it out, trim your corners, flip it out, give it a good press. And if I'm not mistaken, I think my opening is right here. So here's my opening on the one that I had sewn. So you sew all the way around, turn it right side out, leaving your opening. Looking at the orientation of your fabric, do a top stitch all the way across. Here's your top stitch. I haven't done anything with my opening. It's still right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my piece and I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to mark my center. Or you can take some chalk after you folded it, found your center, and I got a chalk pencil and I just drew my line for my center piece right here. So you have this part of the pocket done, and now you've got your lining. So you take your lining, you have your fold. You should still be able to see your fold right here. And you're going to come down 2.5 inches on it. I think I got this one already marked. But from the very top, it's 2.5 inches. And if you look at the template, the main template here, it's got the line on here for the pocket placement. So you can mark it 2.5 inches down. Or if you have a 2.5 inch ruler like I have, I like to just set it right there on the top and just line it up. And so there's my 2.5 inch. Then I'm going to take my pocket and I'm just going to set it right there at that mark where it's 2.5 inches, and I'm lining up the line that's in the center right here. And you're going to put a couple of pins in it. Let me grab some pins. You're just going to pin it, and then you're just going to stitch it down on 3 sides, and then you're going to stitch your center line. So when you stitch those 3 sides down, you're going to be closing up that opening, which my opening I believe is right here. So I'm just going to put a couple of pins in it just to hold it. Keep it nice and secure. And we're going to stitch all the way across, all the way around, and then we're going to do our center stitch. So let's go ahead and get that one done on this one. And you're going to do this for both of the pieces. Now this is just the simplest of pockets to make out there. There are some really great ones that you could try, pockets that have some dimension to it with some pleats in it. But I'm just teaching you just a simple pocket and you can even have pockets that go all the way across, and then you have more space for pockets going all the way around. But we're just creating this simple little pocket with what we have. All right, so I've got my machine set. I'm just going to do probably 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And we're going to back tack on the top, go all the way down. When I get to the bottom corners, I do like to back tack on the bottom corners here and here, here and here, because if you're going to get a hole in your pocket, it's going to be at the corners, right? So I like to add a little bit more stability on the corners. And we're going to go across, and we're going to back tack here just a little bit. And stitch all the way across. Back tack here. And then turn it one more time. Now we're going to close up that opening, but attach it at the same time. Back tack, and coming all the way up. And then the last step, so we have 2 pockets, is go ahead and stitch our center. All right, so do that to both pieces, and now you're going to have your pockets ready to go for your lining pieces. So get that done. All right, so next step, where are we on our instructions? So that was our making our double pockets. We are now at the final assembly. This is where we get to put it all together and make it all happen. All right, so here's where we start. So you're going to grab your pleated exterior and your prepared zipper. So I actually have one that's already started, so I'm going to show you what you're doing. Oh my goodness, here. So I already have it done on half. And this is again where I love, love, love using the 1/4 inch double-sided tape. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to utilize that here. So here's my piece that is already done, has my tab on there, has my little hook on here, has my dot piece on here. So now we're going to get our zipper that we had just prepared. And that is somewhere right here. Here. Hold on, I think we got to put the straps on. Yes, let's add our straps to our body piece. We haven't done that before we put our zipper. We got to get our straps on here. So let's take a step back. Adding the straps, which is very, very important. So let's get the straps on here. Kind of skipped something, so let's go back. So to add your straps that you had just made, you've got to place them here onto the exterior piece before we go to do the zipper part. All right, so to put the straps on, you're going to place the folded over a 1/2 inch up from the seam line. So you're going from this seam line right here. And if you look onto this one here, I actually center this, the strap over these last 2 pleats right here. And I actually marked it a 1/2 inch up from those pleats right here, here and here. So you're just going to take your strap and you're going to place this one here, and you're going to put this one right here, and then you're just going to stitch it down. And I'm doing just a little quick little cross stitch. So I'm going to put this right here, and I'm going to grab a pin, and we're going to pin it. Let me find my pins, just to hold it into place. So I'm centering it a 1/2 inch up from this pleat right here, and just going to pin it into place. You're going to do that to both sides. And this one here, 1/2 inch centered and pinned into place. You're not getting to any of the bulk here, and you're just going to be stitching right here. So let's get this one on. And then we're going to stitch these down. You need to have that done before we can even go to our zipper. All right, so we're going to just do a quick little, I actually drew the little box and the X's on here, so that's basically what you're doing. You're just going to stitch that into that here. I'm going to take the pin out, keep it nice and straight. I'm going to follow my stitching that's on the top and bottom. Rotate, staying in the stitches that I have there already. Rotate again. All that. And one more turn. Come across. All right, so let's make our little X. Got all kinds of clips just sliding around. Creating our X in the middle. One more stitch. Go across the bottom. Get the other X side done. And then I'm going to go across the very top one more time because that's where a lot of the pull is going to be. So we're going to go across the top and we're going to back tack it here. All right. Repeat that for one, and then we got to get our other one done. Okay. And go ahead, just go ahead across. Follow my stitches. Just rotating it around. Just do my first X. Come Come across the bottom again. Do the second X. One more stitch, and then we're going to go across the top one more time and back tack it. Now we're ready to go. Now we can start putting everything together. Had to get the straps done. All right, so now the straps are done. All right, so here's what you're doing on this right here. You're putting your zipper on here. So you place your, kind of have your straps down and out of your way. You're going to take your zipper and you're going to flip it so that's right sides together. So you're going to take the tab here and you're going to line it up with the tab here, or the center mark. So you can mark your centers first here, and then you're going to go ahead and line it up all the way to the end. And you're going to see once you get to each end, it should be about 1/2 of an inch from the edge of the tab, the zipper tab, to the edge of fabric. And you're going to do that and hold it into place. Now, if you want to use the tape on here, this would be a good time to do it. I like to take the tape, my double-sided tape, and I'll put it right here on this zipper, and I will do it on both sides. So I like to just attach it and run it right along this edge. Kind of get the zipper pull out of my way as I'm placing it on. It just made it so much nicer, smoother. I'm not finding the any of the, let's see, clips on here, and it just stays in position nice, and you don't even see it. So I'm got my tape on here. I put it on both sides because I'm going to need it for the second side. So I just run it all the way down. You can put it on the back side too. I mean, it just works so beautifully to free up and easy to attach everything. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and peel one side off. Got to press it on, and then voice found it. Give it a good press, and then kind of score it. Kind of makes it peel off a little bit better. There we go. Oh, being booger. Here we go. Pulling that off. Now I'm going to go ahead and center this on the center. I don't have to worry about clipping. Now I can just run it along the edge of the fabric of my top here. And it's just going to hold it and stay in place. You'll see it's going to be about 1/2 of an inch on each end clearance on both sides. You can readjust it. Okay, now you're going to take your lining with the pocket, match up your centers, and here's where you could put some more tape on this end, on the other side if you want, but I'm just going to clip this side here. And you're going to, once you have it clipped, you're going to stitch all the way across. And I actually have this one done right here so you can see it. You stitch it all the way across. So it was sewn like this, all the way across, stitched to the end, to each end. Then you're going to flip it out, and you're going to give it a press, and then you're going to top stitch, but you're not going to top stitch all the way across from edge to edge. You're going to top stitch starting at the zipper tape and ending at the zipper tab on each side. Zipper tab, and start and end. And that's your top stitching for the top of the bag. Then you're going to repeat that process now for the second piece. So I'm going to grab this one here. I'm going to pull this back off. So here's our other piece that has our strap on here. And just like before, we're going to go ahead and peel our tape off, and we're going to go ahead and line it up, starting with our little centers, and then Work it all the way down to the other end, right sides together. Same thing, you're going to see a little bit of it coming off on each end. And flip it over. Peel off this piece on this side. This one I actually put the tape on so I can do my lining here. Now my lining with the pocket gets pressed on this side. Starting with my center and working out from there. No stretching or pulling, just matching up my edges, all of my edges, all the way to the end. There we go. Now we're going to stitch that and do the exact same thing that we had just done for the first top. I'm still using the same foot, and I'm going to show you something that I like to do. I'm going to move my zipper out of the way. And I like to start more in the center. So what I'm doing here is I'm not using a zipper foot. I'm using the foot that I have on the machine, which is the HP foot. And I'm going to bring my foot down, and I have it, this edge pressed right up against the edge of my zipper, and I can feel it on the inside. And I'm starting more in the center and working out. So I'll stitch this way, and then I'm going to stitch the other way. So I start here, and I'm just stitching it down, and I'm going to set my foot to not come back up. I want my foot to stay down. And if I'm looking here, it looks like, so we used 1/4 inch tape, but it looks like I'm sewing not quite 3/8, but it's more than 1/4 of an inch. So it's going to completely encompass any of that tape that I had on the edge. So I feel it, and it's running along the edge here. And we're going to stitch all the way to the edge where the edge of the two fabrics, where the bag top and then the lining meet. Coming all the way off. I think I'm going to back tack that edge right there a little bit, where I just came off. There's a little bit of pull there. All right, so then I started in the center. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to finish it out the other way. Same thing, I'm lowering my foot down so it's pressed up against the zipper tape. Now I'm going to take my zipper and I'm going to completely move it to the other end, so it's not in my way at all. If your tape came undone from the tape, just tack it back down. Completely came undone, so hold on. Let me get it right back into place on both sides. And at my edges and pressing it. There we go. All right, so got my tape foot right up against the edge. It should match up my stitching right there. I'm kind of overlapping my stitches. And now we're going to just stitch off to the other edge. I pulled it, so let's loosen that back up. There we go. We come to the end, back tack. All right. And just like we did before, we're going to open it up. You're going to press it, or you can give it a good finger press, and then you're going to top stitch all the way down. So I'm going to give it a finger press. I'm going to pull it down on this side, finger press it, and then we'll top stitch that side down. Close up my zipper so I'm not fighting it. And we're only top stitching where the zipper part is. We're not top stitching here, but I'm not going to have this underneath it. The top stitch is where you pull the lining out completely. You're top stitching here, so I don't have the top stitch going onto the lining. If I show you that, I want you to see. When I top stitched it here, I had the lining out of the way, and I'm going to do the same thing, top stitching here. I'm going to have the lining out of the way, so I'm just top stitching right here. So the top stitch is not coming through all the way to the lining. All right. Quick little top stitch down right here. I'm going to start at the tab. And we're going to raise our stitch length up, a little back tack, and we're just going to follow it all the way down. And when you're top stitching, your foot's actually almost riding along the edge of the machine, of the zipper. I'm going to pull my zipper down out of my way. Don't want it in it at all. And finish up. Wonder what that was. And we're coming right here to the edge of the piece right here. Back tack. All right, there we go. All right, so now you don't even see any of the top stitching on the lining at all. We're almost done. All right, so here we go. So you've got your zipper on, and it's so nice. You've got this nice zipper already in place. So now we just got to put the rest of it together, right? Okay, so once you have the zipper on, and we're almost done, we're at the final assembly. So open zipper, reposition, matching the exterior, and lining the pieces. So have your zipper open for this part. Now you're going to pull it together like this. And now we're going to start stitching all of our pieces together. So you're going to open the zipper, reposition, matching the exterior and lining pieces right sides together. Clip the skirt. You're going to stitch the sides, and then you're going to leave a 4-inch opening in the lining. So be sure to have your zipper open for this. Get your handles positioned out of the way. So we just clip all of this and start stitching it all down. So I like to match up my seams. So I match up the seams on the side, put a clip there. Matching up the seam here on the lining. Put a clip there. Do it over here. I catch my seams first because everything else can work around that. So I'm matching up the seams. Put a clip there. Matching up the seam here. I have both of the seams going up on this side here. So we're putting a clip right there after we've matched up those seams. Those are the most important seams that you want to match up. And then you're just going to go ahead and match up your edges and stitch all the way around. So you're going to stitch the sides, the bottom. So here's a lot of seams right here on the box part. So let's get these all matched up. So we got this seam here, starting with seam number 1 and working all the way across. So you got your pleats. So you're matching up the pleats here. So there's a lot of bulk right here, but it goes right over it. Here's where you might want to grab your thicker clips. You're going to match up these here. Matching up the last one here, all these pleats. And then this edge over here. Sewing that all the way across, matching this up, sewing all the way across here, but here's where I like to leave my opening. So I'm going to grab 2 red clips. So my opening is going to be here and here. So in stitching this, we're going to stitch to here. Do not stitch this. We're going to stitch this all the way across, all the way down, stitch across here, Do not stitch this here, but stitch this, and then finish here, leaving this opening right here. All right, ready to start stitching? All right, let's get this one done. We are so close. Oh, and be sure to have your zipper open. It's going to make it easier for when you do all of your turning. I'm going to stitch the bottom so I can have my opening. And we're going to sew this at the 3/8, I think. Now we're going to sew our sides. Line up my edges. Now there's a little angle here, so be sure to catch that. That's important. Should have had more clips in here, but we're just going to go ahead and come across. Coming up to our first pleat right here. Come across. Come into our next little pleated area here. Those seams there, and then we're going to stitch down to this edge. All right, we're going to cross the bottom. Now this is where you matched up all of your little pleats across. And I am sewing this one all the way across at the 5 or the 3/8 of an inch. And everything lined up. So you're going to be covering up the basting stitch that you had made. And across number 1. And coming on to the last piece right here. And last side. Go ahead and get my clips out of the way. I see I forgot to take my pins out, so we'll get those in a minute. And come out here. Before we close up this bottom, let's get these pins out of here or they'll hurt when we go to flip it out. 1, 2, let's see, there was 3 pins. These were the pins that we did for the pocket. All right, last little stitch right here to create our opening for flipping it right side out. I think we're going to leave about a 4-inch opening. Okay, once you have those done, now we got to box our corners. Pretty simple. You're just going to open them up. Lay it flat, matching up the raw edges and matching up those seams that you had going from the bottom and the top. Kind of like to nest them up a little bit. And then you're just going to stitch across. So you open it up, Lay it flat, matching up the center seam, and stitch across. But same, about 3/8 of an inch. We got 4 of those to do. We got 2 on the lining and 2 on the main bag. Then you open it up, matching up the raw edges, kind of nest those center seams in whichever direction you want it to be. And then stitch across your 3/8 of an inch, back tacking on each end. Two more. So do the same with your pleated sides. I like to nest the center seams again, the side and the bottom seam. Laying it nice and flat and stitch it up. One more to go, then we get to turn her out. Pull it out, match up raw edges, match up your center seams. Okay. Those are all of the seams. Find your opening. That's why you need to have your zipper open. And grab it and start pulling it through. Then you'll close up the opening. You can hand stitch that or you can do it with your machine. But we're wanting to see what the bag looks like, right? I haven't seen it in this colorway. So I'm just pushing my lining in there, kind of fluffing it out, tucking everything down. Look how cute. Isn't this just cute? We're Florida over here, so we like our ocean colors. That's absolutely adorable. So you're going to maybe just maneuver the pleats a little bit, get everything pushed out. You got to get your edges pushed out. So let me go back in here and push these edges out a little bit. Go into the opening, I'm going to push those edges out. Push the boxes out. So there's the box corner over here, push this box corner out over here. Here, that will make that look a little better. Fluff it back up. So you're just going to maneuver your pleats a little bit. That's where you had done that little bit of pressing and then pushed it back in. It's going to make the pleats look so much nicer. And here and here. All right. So I think we got it. Let me get one. Should I stuff it? What do you think? Should I stuff it? What did I do with that stuffing? I don't know what I did with it. Hold on, it might be down here. Nope. Stuffing's gone. Anyway, this is our bag. How cute is this? Cute little zipper. Take your finger, kind of pop out that tab a little bit and make it nice and smooth. You can either just pop it out. You'll see it'll turn out nice smooth. Clip any threads that you have. But you've got a nice top tab that's not all wrinkly, that's not bunched up, and it just looks really, really smooth. I got a couple of threads I need to clip off. It just turned out nice and smooth. You've got your nice, beautiful straps that has a different look to them here and here. I really love how well they turn out. Nice good tab. Here's another thread. Oh, close up your opening. That's the last thing that you need to do. But all of that stitching from when we were top stitching is hidden in between the lining and the exterior, so you don't see it. And so all you have to do is just fill it up with some goodies. So you got your snap here, and you have your little tab, a D-ring tab right here. So just a great fun project. It's cute as a button. Have fun with the colors on how you want your bag to be. I really loved this electric neon teals and purples with this one, with this blue. I thought it looked very tropical Florida. Fun colors. Just so many fun colors. Change it up a little bit. Change your colors. Have different, have multiple colors for your Peekaboo pop. Or just have fun playing with polka dots or solids. It's just a great bag. The sky's the limit on all the different color variations that you have. So I really enjoyed creating this bag for everybody and creating the templates that make it so easy to do. And every single one that you make is going to come out perfect. It's going to be precise, and they're just going to fit together so nicely. So that is the Martelli Peekaboo Color Pop shoulder bag. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed creating it for you, and I can't wait to see the ones that you make. Be sure to post them onto the Martelli Quilters Group Facebook page. I would really love to see it. If you have any comments or questions, you can reach out to me at learn@martellinotions.com. Again, my name is Lisa Gifford, learn@martellinotions.com. All right, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out. You guys have a wonderful day. Hope you enjoy it. Bye-bye, everybody.